Superman Tower of Power amputation. On the 21st of June 2007, 13-year-old Caitlin Lassiter had an exciting day planned with her family visiting Six Flags Kentucky Kingdom. It was a perfect summer day, ideal for laughing the day away on the various rides and attractions at the park. Caitlin, a local from nearby Elizabethtown, was excited for the day ahead. One attraction in particular was sure to have excited Caitlin: Superman Tower of Power. It was one of the most iconic rides at the park, lifting guests up to an impressive 177 feet for breathtaking views of Louisville, before releasing guests into a terrifying freefall. Drop towers are thrilling yet simple rides. Guests are secured into their seats with their feet dangling freely beneath them. Guests are then lifted on a series of cables all the way to the top, where they're paused briefly to build anticipation, before releasing down into a rapid controlled plunge all the way back to the ground. Throughout this, riders are well secured with over-the-shoulder restraints and often additional seat belts too. As anyone does, Caitlin queued with her family, watching group after group scream with excitement as they dropped the 177-foot drop down the tower. On each ride, the operators would complete their usual safety checks, tugging on harnesses and confirming that each restraint was locked and each guest was safe. From everyone's point of view, this was a standard day at a theme park. No one could have guessed that within a few moments, Caitlin's life would change forever. All of the riders, including Caitlin, were seated and completed safety checks just fine. The ride was given the go-ahead and began its slow climb towards the top. The ride hadn't even reached the 50 feet mark before disaster struck. One of the ride's main steel cables snapped under the heavy tension, and like a whip, it recoiled with a violent slash, striking straight across the gondola where all the guests were seated. The steel cable, now a deadly projectile, struck several riders and in a single horrifying second turned a dream day into one of horror. Despite multiple riders being struck, it was Caitlin who suffered the most devastating injuries. The cable hit her legs with tremendous force, amputating both of her feet above the ankles. Screams of terror erupted from the gondola as other riders realised what had happened. Yet despite the chaos unfolding, witnesses described Caitlin as strangely composed. The ride was immediately stopped and operators initiated the emergency descent. Medical teams rushed to the base of the tower as soon as the ride had returned to the ground, and the medics acted quickly and likely saved Caitlin's life before transporting her to the University Hospital for urgent care. Everyone involved that day was left deeply shaken by being so close and witnessing the awful tragedy as it unfolded. It left a lasting emotional and mental scar on many who were involved that day. Thankfully, Caitlin survived her injuries and medics were even able to reattach one of her feet. But despite this, her life was changed forever. She now faced a life of disability and the difficulties of adapting to a new world she now found herself in. In the immediate aftermath, the Superman Tower of Power was shut down indefinitely, while investigators began a full examination of the ride and its operating systems. Six Flags eventually reached an undisclosed settlement with Caitlin's family, and the ride itself never reopened. The severity of the incident sent ripples through the amusement park industry. Before we continue, this is a brand new channel and these videos take an age to make, so if you've enjoyed it, please feel free to like, subscribe, hype, or comment down below and let us know what you'd like to see next. The infamous Smiler crash at Alton Towers. On June the 2nd, 2015, 17-year-old Leah Washington and 20-year-old Vicky Balch arrived at Alton Towers excited to take on the park's newest record-breaking roller coaster, the Smiler. The ride was famous for its knots of twisted steel, 14 inversions, and its reputation as a thrill machine, unlike anything else in the UK. Both girls were eager to experience it. The pair joined the queue, completely unaware that the ride was already pushing its limits. 4 trains were running in 46 mph winds, far beyond the manufacturer's recommended maximum of 34 mph. Still, That morning, the Smiler had operated without a single visible issue. To guests, everything seemed normal. But the park was heaving with crowds, and the Smiler, being Alton Towers' star attraction, had queues stretching far beyond expectations. Management wanted capacity, so they attempted to add a fifth train. Shortly after 1 p.m, everything changed. A fault was triggered on the ride, which stopped it. Operators evacuated the trains and called maintenance teams to investigate. But while the ride sat in a controlled shutdown, operators, under pressure, took the opportunity to introduce the fifth train. To do so, they first had to send an empty train around the track, and it completed its cycle normally. The fifth train itself needed cycling, and it was dispatched empty. But this time the high winds proved too much. The train stalled mid-circuit and settled in a low, hard-to-see dip within the track. Moments later, Leah and Vicky were loaded onto the very next train. Spirits were high, riders buzzing with adrenaline as they began the steep climb up the lift hill. But as the train crested the top, it stopped. This was the ride's safety system doing exactly what it's designed to do. It detected an occupied block section ahead and halted the next train to avoid a collision. But mistakes were already made and disaster already set in motion. When the fifth train had been added, operators had failed to update the system's records, and maintenance, arriving to diagnose the problem, saw what they believed were the only 4 trains on the track, logged on the ride's computer. To them, the stalled train ahead was simply a ghost train error, a known false reading. Believing no real danger existed, they manually overrode the block system, and with that, disaster became unavoidable. The train carrying Leah and Vicky lurched forward, re-entering the circuit. It accelerated through inversion after inversion, unaware, just like its passengers, of the stalled train waiting ahead. And at speeds of over 50 miles per hour, the 2 trains collided in a violent, thunderous impact that echoed across the park. Leah and Vicky, seated in the front row, took the full force of the crash. They were crushed between the twisted metal of both trains. Shockingly, 20 minutes passed before the first 999 call was made, as confusion and disbelief rippled through staff and witnesses. The rescue effort was brutal and complex. The Smiler structure is a towering web of steel, making access nearly impossible. Specialist teams had to be winched up to the stranded passengers, whilst cutting equipment was carefully lowered into the ride area. It took almost 4 hours before everyone was finally freed from the wreckage. Both Leah and Vicky were rushed to hospital, but the injuries were catastrophic. Each underwent life-changing leg amputations. In the aftermath, the Smiler remained closed for months, and other rides across the UK built by the same manufacturer were temporarily shut as investigations began. The health and safety executive uncovered severe operational failures and training shortfalls. Merlin Entertainment, the company behind Alton Towers, was fined £5 million. Ironically, the ride's automated safety system had worked flawlessly on that day, but it was human error, miscommunication, incorrect procedures and pressure to keep capacity high that let tragedy strike that day. Despite everything, Leah and Vicky's stories didn't end there. Both eventually married, rebuilt their lives and became outspoken advocates for ride safety. Their experience helped reshape UK theme park safety procedures, ensuring rides like the Smiler are now safer than ever before.